Yeah, no, this is bargain basement stand by me for sure. A special edition of Was It Great or Were You Eight with my great friend, Chris Crawford, baseball expert. This is the time of year to hear Chris Crawford's insights. He's got a channel of his own called My OY. We will link to him down below, where he talks about Seattle Mariners baseball. And you're not in the postseason. Neither is my team.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
okay.
It's okay. It makes you appreciate when you do make it. Of course, my team's only made it once in the past 23 years, and your team seems to they just have like a pre-written thing that like you advance to this series. Sometimes they don't go that far, Christy, but they do get to at least get to play.
The Dodgers had an epic collapse, but that's a whole other conversation for a whole other time.
Sure.
You had this great idea that you wanted to talk about a movie that means a lot to you from your childhood. And this seems like sort of the exact wheelhouse of things that we like to do here from time to time in the Was It Great or Were You Eight series. You picked The Sandlot from 1993.
Yes.
Why did you pick this movie? Well, first of all, what's it about?
Meet Scotty Smalls.
Kale, get it! The kid is a L7 winning.
The Sandlot is the story of Scott Smalls moving to San Fernando. I think that's right.
It's
right around there.
San Fernando Valley, the valley.
Yes. Yeah. So he is encouraged by his mom to go make some friends, and he has a stepdad played by Dennis Leary, which is as a kid did not really get, but now seems a little bit weirder to me. Mm-hmm. Meets a group of kids who are kind of a ragtag team of baseball. They're kind of the misfits, the underdogs. Smalls is not good at baseball, has not played it before. They include him in the gang, and a whole bunch of wild, wacky adventures take place over the summer of, I don't remember what year they said it. Maybe they don't actually say what year it is, Christy.
Oh, it's very specific. It's 1962.
Okay. 1962, that's right.
A time of innocence in our nation. This is not a random year here. This is a time when we were still innocent as a country.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So the reason I picked this movie is because we talked about it on a podcast when I was with NBC that we picked our favorite baseball movies and we picked our least favorite baseball movies. And it was my pick for least favorite baseball movie. And the reason is I loved this movie as a kid. And then I realized that I was an idiot. I was not a smart young child. And Alonzo, when we were talking about it, our good buddy Alonzo said, was it great or were you eight?
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what started the segment. So I'm still waiting for those residual checks.
You know, once the SAG strike ends, we can get those back out to you again. I do think, though, that is the impetus of Was It Great or Were You Eight, which is a conversation that I love having. And then this crystallized it. So thank you for, I guess The Sandlot is the reason that this whole series exists. Yes. So it's not great then. It sounds like you don't think it is.
It's not. I think that this is one of this movie desperately to me wants to be Stand By Me, but actually for kids. Really, really wants to be that type of movie. And it relies entirely on nostalgia, and it is so derivative of so many better movies in my humble estimation. Now, there are certainly things that I enjoy about the movie. I actually think Dennis Leary's performance is one of the best parts of the movie. I think his actually a pretty believable stepdad that's trying to make that effort to work with the kid, but cannot quite find that common ground with him. But a lot of the performances, and I know they're child actors, are not so great in this movie. And I have to ask you this specifically, and I'll give your thoughts, of course. Yeah. The needle drops are so bad in this movie. So bad. Every single one of them is so obvious. In particular, Wendy Peppercorn and this magic moment playing right before the kiss is just like so on the nose. And something you don't realize is on the nose when you're 8. But as a glumber world, it becomes a little more obvious that this is not necessarily great filmmaking.
Yeah, no, this is bargain basement stand by me for sure. I'm realizing watching this movie today that I have never seen it. I thought I had, and looking back, it came out in April of 93. I was a senior in college, getting ready to graduate. I was 20 years old, and I devoured film then, but at this point in my life, I would not have sought out The Sandlot. Like at
Sure.
this point in my life, I was going by myself to whatever was playing at the art house in the middle of the day.
Sure.
So I did not see it. And watching it now, like from the very beginning, I was so uncomfortable. It's so cringe inducing because it's like one of those Family Guy parodies of like the summer that changed everything. Like the
Yes.
narration, the writer and co-director and narrator, David Mickey Evans, hold your hand through everything and like has zero faith. And again, as you say, is for really little kids, but explains everything like that's the summer that I moved with my mom and stepdad to the San Fernando Valley and didn't know anyone. And these kids went to this magical place called the Sandlot. And just the things that he very easily could have shown us, like a better writer, a better filmmaker would have shown us, could have shown kids in a way that is self-explanatory without being condescending. You know,
Yes.
like I think it's possible, you know, and like the scene where they have their big win and they are all excited and they go to the carnival and they're
Yes.
all dipping for the first time, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not enough to just let those events unfold in that order. He has to tell us as they are walking up to get tickets for the carnival, we wanted to celebrate. We were on top of the world, but we did something that was really stupid. And so rather than just like let us get sucked into, oh God, they're on the tilt-a-whirl
Yes.
and they're all going to yak all over everything.
Right.
It's just and over again, that is a tendency here. And like David Mickey Evans, the director, really likes David Mickey Evans, the narrator,
Yes, he does.
includes him quite a bit. Yeah, but I need you to explain to me though, because you're about 10 years younger than me. This is a really important formative movie for a lot of people your age, and the nostalgia factor is high.
Absolutely. What you're hearing right now was my phone ringing for me making fun of the Sandlot. A lot of people are really upset about that right now. It is huge, and it is a formative movie for a lot of sports fans, and it was a successful movie. I looked it up. It had a $7 million budget, and it made $34 million in 1993. That's a hit. Like that is definitely a movie that did well. I think people just watched it at the exact right time in their formative years, especially for me, like as a 40-year-old, you know, that has so many friends who became such big sports fans. That was kind of their introduction into like sports movies and sports baseball. And it was something that we really hadn't seen because most baseball movies were made for adults. Absolutely. You couldn't watch Major League when we were little. We couldn't watch
Bad News Bears.
Bad News Bears, all of those types of movies. This
Mhm.
was like literally like handpicked for us to watch. And I think that's why so many people love it. And I've talked to many people who have watched it afterwards and realized, maybe that wasn't so great.
Oh, it's bad.
Yeah.
But will they acknowledge it? Like, I
Yeah.
totally appreciate your candor in acknowledging it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know that everyone could do that because they want to cling so fiercely to
Oh.
these things that they treasure from their youth, right?
1,000,000,000%. And I think you made a great point too with like the hand holding. The thing that I immediately thought of was the erector set scene, which is actually kind of a clever little thing when they're looking to go get the baseball and stuff. He can't help but to just like talk you through that this whole thing was being set up and they thought this was going to be it. You can't just watch the movie and figure out what you're going to do. And by the way, it is worth pointing out, this guy was the guy who wrote Radio Flyer, which is one of the most, I don't know if you remember the movie Radio Flyer, Christy.
I don't.
It is one of the most bizarre movies about these kids who are having these fantasies while they're getting abused. And it is unbelievable that this movie was made in 92. Mr. Ebert was not happy about it. He gave it a very scathing review. I do remember that. But this guy also made movies like Beethoven's Third, Beethoven's Fourth, National Lampoon's Barely Legal, and Ace Ventura Jr. Pet Detective. I think
Ace Ventura Jr. You gotta specify.
Yeah, Ace Ventura Jr. I very much apologize for that. That is that gives you kind of an idea. And look, that's a little bit of an ad hominem argument. You know, people make good movies, people make bad movies. But I think it gives you kind of an idea of the quality that certain people are capable of doing. And the performances aren't great. Like the pacing isn't great. And again, what did you think of the needle drops?
I mean, they're just songs that we hear a lot in movies that take place in this era.
Yeah.
you know, green onions and tequila. You know, it's just the very obvious choices as far as like the
Oh,
music supervision goes. But again, you know, it was 30 years ago, and
sure.
I do wonder whether a lot of filmmakers now are more astute about trying to find more varied examples of songs that would have played, you know, or were evocative of that era or whatever.
They've got the moves.
I always forget the name of the song that plays at the beginning of every Vietnam movie. Fortunate Son, like that one is
Yeah.
played out quite a bit. And then, you know, like the America the Beautiful that's playing during the fireworks scene, and just over and over again. Also, this movie's pretty sexist, Christy. Like
Oh my
it's a
God.
pretty darn sexist movie, even for, and I'm not excusing sexism at any time, but even for 1993, this is a pretty darn sexist movie.
The thing that happens with Marley Shelton wouldn't happen in a movie today.
Oh gosh, no.
The idea that like he
Absolutely
tricks
not.
her, he pretends to drown to
Yes.
try to kiss her, and then yes, she kicks him out, but then she waves to him all the time, and then ends up marrying him and having 9 kids and staying in this shitty town and
Yes.
running a store. Like that's horrible. That's not a
Ugh.
good message for girls.
And that end narration, by the way, is just awful. Like it's just like they think they're being clever, giving all these guys the Animal House treatment of what happened to them and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's
Um,
bad.
how about the James Earl Jones little side piece? What did you think of that?
That's the only good part of this whole movie.
I
Like,
think
I would
so
like a
too.
whole movie about James Earl Jones, which like, clearly they're playing off of Field of Dreams there, right?
Yes,
How many years
absolutely.
earlier did Field of Dreams come out?
Like 5, something like that. I
Right.
think 88 for Field of Dreams. Yeah.
They're so lucky that James Earl Jones said yes to this movie. He has no reason to, right? So are we
No.
to assume that he was like a Negro Leagues player and he knew Babe Ruth?
Yes, yeah, and unfortunately was blinded in an incident that
Yeah.
takes place, and that's and they can't even really that movie can't even like break that part down. It has to be some sort of, they can't even talk about like the segregation thing. They completely side piece that, which would have been an interesting thing to hear about how he was just as good as any of them, but didn't get a chance to play against them because of the lack of segregation that was happening. That could have been an interesting thing to talk about as well. But instead, you have to show 5 minutes of kids throwing up on a tilt-a-whirl and probably cut your runtime down. And that's that scene, by the way. Just show what happens after. Just show, you could show like some stuff on their shirt that said that they threw up. You don't have to have that whole dang thing take place.
I actually think they didn't go big enough on it. I don't usually like gross out humor.
Nice.
I don't like totally gratuitous like poop jokes and whatever. But if you're gonna do it, go big. The way they did it looks so chintzy. They just like threw some like wet dog food on the ground or something. Chili.
Fair. So should we give numbers? Do I get to give a number on the Breakfast All Day podcast?
Do we do numbers on Was It Great or Were You 8? I think we just try to decide at the end, was it great or were you 8? We vote.
I will just say I was 8. I was definitely 8. I wasn't actually 8, but for all intents and purposes, I was very much an 8-year-old for this movie.
Metaphorically. You were 8. Yeah, I agree. This was not a good movie. And I'm so pleased to hear you say this because I was so afraid that I was going to come on here and like dump all over your favorite baseball movie from childhood, the one that made you like the baseball expert that you are today. So I'm pleased to see that you have evolved in your taste.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
This was so fun. Thank you for doing this. You guys have asked us to bring in friends who are of different ages, that is younger than we are, to pick movies that they love from childhood. So this is a great opportunity to do that. So thank you, Chris, and let us know if it was great or we were 8. Explain the nostalgia to us because we're very confused.